Hello, 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 everyone. Happy Hump Day. It is Wednesday, July 1st, the beginning of a new month, 1:30. And thank you, as I see some people have joined in already. Thank you so much, Christy. Love to always have your support. Hey, Mom, thank you for jumping in as well. And so as people are coming in, I will... from time to time, acknowledge everyone and have them definitely be able to share their questions and information with us as well. So thank you for joining AskTiffanyH here on Facebook Live, as I shared before. And just as a little backdrop, I've always shared with people that I started doing these Facebook Lives just kind of impromptu as the COVID started. Having a background as being a financial advisor, I could foresee that there were going to be a lot of challenges that people may have economically, as well as psychologically, things of that nature. And I started just doing various information sessions. And so if you haven't had an opportunity to see one of my previous ones or want to catch up, please feel free to come and or at least go to my YouTube station, which is AskTiffanyH. When you go there on YouTube, please subscribe so you'll be notified when there's additional content, and all of the previous editions that we have done before will be there as well. So, hey, Yolanda. Hey, Veronica. Thank you for coming in. So I'm excited today because I know I have had a sense of feeling like, okay, here's July, please, and I think it was you, Charmaine, had made a post like, July, please come in, sit down, be quiet, don't do anything, because I think we have absolutely had enough. And so I'm excited today because I wanted to bring some conversation about, while we're in COVID, here's some women entrepreneurs who are taking their business to the next level, who have taken such a time as this. And not only are they surviving and thriving, but have been agile enough to be entrepreneurs and pivot, and how that has been so. And so being able to come on and provide some great information and share some tools and tactics with everyone. And so to that aim, I am thoroughly ecstatic to have our guests here today. So hey, Tatsi, hey, Melissa, thank you for joining. Hey, Ben, hey, Cheryl, thank you for joining. I really appreciate you all coming. Now, just as a backdrop, we are having some technical things that we are trying to work through. And unfortunately, we were unable to have Janelle Harris, as she had a work emergency that had came up. And as entrepreneurs, we all know work comes first, and things can happen at any time, any place. And so with that being said, we miss her and hope that we may be able to catch her on another episode. Michelle is working with her device a little bit, so she'll be jumping in and out. And so to that end, let me start. Instead of me trying to do introductions, I am allowing guests to do their own introductions, because we do much better talking about ourselves than I could ever do. I see you back. Sorry, Michelle. Hey, Felicia. Hey, Marsha. So with that being said, Miss Charmaine Brown, if you would be so kind to introduce yourself and tell us about you and what it is that your business do. And we got Michelle back, and then afterwards we'll come to you, Michelle.
All right. Well, Tiffany, thank you so much for having me. It's always good to be with my Shaker home girl. So yes, my name is Charmaine Brown. I am the CEO of Connections Consulting, Inc. My business primarily works with organizations that are kind of at the beginning stages of their equity, inclusion, and diversity journey, and really helps to set them up for success. And so, as you can imagine, here lately, it's been pretty crazy. And not that I'm complaining, it's great opportunity, but there's just a lot involved with that. So about 5 years ago, I relocated from Cleveland, Ohio to Detroit, and started this entrepreneurship journey, 4.5, almost 5 years ago. And if you'd asked me then, that, would I ever consider entrepreneurship? I would have told you, absolutely not. I'm a corporate chick. I live and breathe. I die corporate life. I'm a retire. That's what I'm doing. But then, life transition. Husband had a great opportunity to grow his career. And I was at a point where I was looking to pivot. Just didn't realize I was pivoting into entrepreneurship at that time. And I, took the leap of faith. And what has happened for me is a multitude of things. I think I'm considered a serial entrepreneur now. Going from never ever ever will I ever to, oh my God, this is a great opportunity, this is a great venture, and let's do this and let's do that. So it's been a really fun and interesting ride. My husband and I started up a wholesale spice business called Simply My Spice. I've got the connections consulting piece, and I'm the president of a women's business organization called NABO Greater Detroit Chapter. So it's been incredibly busy and incredibly blessings flowing, but also very challenging, especially with COVID-19. So I'm glad we're going to be talking a lot about our pivots and our challenges and the opportunities and how we're surviving in all of this.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you. And I don't want to tell everybody that, I've known Charmaine all the way from high school, but, yes, longevity.
Only 10 years ago. Only 10 years ago.
So many moons ago. Well, no, not that long ago. Right. So Michelle, thank you very much for joining. And again, I don't want to introduce you. I would love for people to introduce themselves. So please tell us about you, yourself, and your business.
Okay. Well, I am possibly a serial entrepreneur as well. Actually, on Saturday, Felder and Company, which is my main business, will be celebrating 12 years of doing that full time. July 4th is my anniversary. I call it my personal Independence Day. Leaving corporate and starting the journey. Didn't time it that way. It just so happened that that's what happened. So Felder & Co. is a full service event planning company. We do all events except for weddings, I like to say. So social, corporate, and non-for-profit space. And they're also under the Felder & Co. umbrella is Gorgeous Living, which does interior design and interior styling for residential and some commercial spaces. And the Silent Bell, which is a concierge service and lifestyle management service. So those three businesses have been moving down the track for the past 10 to 12 years when Felder & Co. started. And so thank you, Yolanda. She said happy anniversary. And so for that, I'm grateful. Of course, with those types of businesses, COVID really impacted that. So events aren't happening, at least not in physical spaces or in person. And interiors have some projects, but not a few of the projects that I had, the larger projects have been sidelined, which will come back, later on. And the concierge service has really lessened as well. So.
Well, awesome. And
I'm
again,
to talk about.
Yes, Sarah, a happy anniversary.
No,
That is an awesome milestone.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. So tell me again, Charmaine, when did you start? You said 5 years ago?
A little under 5 years. Yep.
Okay. 12 years ago. And I know I originally started my practice when living in DC back in 2006. And so I've done financial planning as my main opportunity. And then coming back home from DC to Cleveland, gotten into real estate. And so having another arm of doing flipping houses, renovating, of course, helping people buy and sell. So that's really great to show just the diversity in services as well as time frame and how that can impact us a little bit. And so with that being said, I really wanted today to be about here's what our business is, how things are going, and here's this pandemic. Like, it's this thing, called entrepreneurship, where we have this kind of cliche of saying, like, really what we do is just find solutions for our clients. Right. And so however you want to call it, as a small business, an entrepreneur, or serial one, or whatever, that's what we do. We just find solutions, for our clients. And so with that being said, Charmaine, share a little bit with us about, you were going down the road, you're doing your consulting, and I know we're in this sensitive space right now with race relations. And so I could imagine your consulting practice, is probably picking up as well. But just share with us a little bit about kind of pre-COVID, what you were doing, and then what kind of was like the thing that said boom, and you had to make an adjustment.
Yeah. So when 2020 hit, my husband and I were like, this is going to be the best year ever. Right. We are very focused. I had my goals set. I knew exactly how many clients I needed to get to that magic number that, said you did a great job in 2020. I had contracts signed, coming into 2020 for, 6-7 months out, which was a first, in my, my entrepreneurial journey. And so I was feeling really good. I was working on a couple of clients, and then COVID hit. And I was fortunate enough that I was in the phase of those projects that I didn't need to physically be with my clients, that I could easily transition virtually. And it's interesting, some of my clients who I worked with over the past few years, I had kept pushing them to use Zoom, because I'm in Michigan. And I'm always up and down the road, but there are times when I just want to be home. I can still get the work done. But so a lot of my clients are now like, I remember when you taught us, so we were able to easily transition. So at the beginning of COVID, my work wasn't interrupted. Mm-hmm. What did get interrupted were those projects that had been kind of, spaced out into Q2 and into Q3. And then there became this really quiet time. And it was very uncomfortable. And at the same time, I was saying to myself, okay, what do I need to be doing? What do I need to be planning for in the future? Because we expected this to go away, right? In the early stages, we're like, it's only going to be here for some period of time. So I decided that I wanted to build automation into my process, because I am a solopreneur. And a friend of mine, she that was not
bless
COVID.
you.
Bless you.
Right, bless you.
Bless you.
A friend of mine was talking about this concept about key man risk. When you're a solopreneur and you, your business is so reliant on you that if something should happen, do you have the right processes and automation in place to keep it going, right? Even though I parts of the work that it can be automated. And so I spend a lot of my time working on how do I automate my processes so that when things picked up, I was ready to go. So that was kind of a huge pivot point for me, was getting kind of smart about my operations and kind of cleaning up some of the back office stuff because it was pretty raggedy. And of course, going through PPP helped me to see how raggedy it was. So, a lot of that time was really spent on kind of tightening up the business and thinking about different ways to operate more efficiently and more effectively in the future. But then, I call it the perfect ugly storm, where you had COVID, and then, you started to hear the rise of healthcare disparities as it related to COVID. And there started to become more of a focus on, the racial disparities around that. And then we saw the, unfortunate George Floyd modern day lynching. And next thing you know, I haven't been able to take a break because it's been nonstop. And so that has kind of been the journey thus far for me.
Good, good. And so, Michelle, before I ask a follow-up question with Charmaine, Michelle, share with us kind of, you're going down the road, your first year, your beginning of the year started, and then what was your kind of like pivotal change that hit you, and then your new endeavors?
So sure. So it sounds like I walked into my 2020 similar to Charmaine. It was going to be the best year ever from the respect of business. 13 events signed, locked and loaded, and ready to move forward on those. And COVID hit, and it was a nope. And so pretty much all of them, I knew that they would cancel just because of the stay-at-home orders, and even some of them were further in the spring, some were in the summer, some were later in the year. But even if that had lifted, I knew the comfort level or the what would happen with this virus would not go away, where people would feel safe or comfortable with coming in and, gathering in large spaces with lots of people. So similarly suited, it kind of all fizzled away. And I don't work in the space of, everyone wanting to be on the right side of Black history now. So I'm not helping organizations fix their issues and their racism and their internal biases and external ones either. So it kind of just all flops. And I thought about going to work at Amazon. And then I was like, I don't know, because that's kind of dangerous. And I'm pretty resilient or resourceful, so I have no problem with the thought of doing that. Or even, actually, first I thought that I could go get a job at the mall, something like that, to tie me over for the year, but that's closed too. So outside I couldn't go serve, couldn't go bartend. It's closed. So I'm like, I was sitting on my bed, sitting in the bed, and I thought about the fabrics that I had that I brought back in October from Ghana. Now, I didn't know how to sew, but sewing is something that I've always wanted to learn how to do since I was a little girl. Thought I would learn how to do it in high school, went to an all-girl high school. They had home ec. My mom told me she wasn't paying tuition for me to learn how to wash the dishes, so I did not learn how to sew. I learned how to type on the computer because I got to take keyboarding, which was great because that's the class in school, college, between Case and Regina. It's the one class that I use every single day, keyboarding, typing. Right. So that paid off well, but I wanted to sew. So I called an aunt, my mom's sister, and I asked could I borrow her sewing machine to teach myself how to sew. And she said, sure. Then she got the idea that she wanted to do masks because I come from a family of seamstresses. Oh. So she showed up with my own sewing machine. She was out one day and she saw some sewing machines and she sent me pictures and she showed up, pulled up. It was like curbside delivery. I got it out of the car, brought it upstairs and unboxed it. And the box is still sitting there in the dining room. And I immediately opened up this laptop and went on YouTube to learn how to put it together and then watched a video on how to sew the mask. And then my aunt, through the magic of WhatsApp video, helped me a little bit. And I started to sew. And I was so excited. I think I posted when I did my first stitch. And so that was it. But that was before the mask. That was just my first stitch on a piece of raggedy fabric, just like a stitch. And so I did that. And she made a pattern. She knows how to make patterns. She's a pattern maker. And she brought over my pattern for the mask. And I started sewing them. And I posted on Facebook this advertisement, as you want to say, on my Facebook page. And I put all blocks and squares with numbers 1, 2, 3, 4. I think I
Mhm.
started with 9
Yeah.
and we're up to 27
Yeah.
and 4 more. I get the fabrics now. I used what I had. I'm looking down because there's some of my fabrics sitting right here below me, but I used what I had from Ghana, and then I found the shop owner that I actually purchased them from off of the receipt. I still had the receipt, and I reached out to on WhatsApp, and I got some more that came in, and actually a package arrived yesterday that I thought was from a replacement order, which I thought got here way too soon because I just placed it on Thursday. But there's three packages that should have come the first time. Only one arrived, but it came with the bulk. So 4 more fabrics showed up yesterday. So I'll be adding those to the collection on Friday.
Yay!
And here I am. I'm
love
making
it.
masks.
I love it.
And there's a cotton block. So I'll get to this. I don't know if I have a little more time to talk on this question, but the cotton blocks, which is the name of the company.
Back and let you
Okay.
have some ways to still get in touch with. And so, but with that being said, so the interesting thing, and I think I want to say hello to a couple of people. Hey, Yo-Yo, thank you for coming in. Hey, Jonathan Fowler, thank you for supporting us and joining us. Hey, Tanya. Hey, Ken Lumpkin, thank you for stopping in. Hey, Miss Kenya and Patricia, thank you. Hey, Auntie Tipsy, I see you there as well. And Miss Dorothy, thank you. But Veronica points out a very good question. It's just interesting how COVID has impacted different types of businesses in different ways. And I know, like for myself, in the beginning, I thought I probably would have been cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs by now. Because being an extreme extrovert, I'm just thinking like, I just can't believe that. Right, like I feel like I'm surprised I'm not Humpty Dumpty and having jumped off the wall, you know. But I remember at one point I was in the kitchen and I was saying to myself, mindlessly cooking, because I don't cook often. So clearly I was being mindless, right? And I was like, okay, as an entrepreneur, we have to think about, we learn from best practices, what to do, how to survive or whatever, what you should do. But like, I thought to myself, okay, now that this is here, there's nothing that I could have done to prevent it because who would have ever known such a thing, right? But what would I put in place and what kind of things would I factor into my business so that if in the event something so substantive as this ever happened again, I would be able to deal with it. Now, I have to say, as being a realtor, we were still kind of considered essential. Being a general contractor was still considered being essential. But I mean, I'm not the general contractor when your toilet run over, you gonna call me. Like, I'm not that general contractor. So I wasn't that essential. I was, I'm out here doing it as a trade, but I'm not risking my life to go in because somebody just wants some new paint or want to change their floor. So it wasn't economically essential. People were buying and selling. There's some transactions that were still going on, but it was limited compared to normal. So I had to think about what I would do. And I would have to say that I haven't come up with the answer yet, but I think that as an entrepreneur, that is what we have to think about is, okay, how can I put some things in place that if something like this ever happened again, I would be able to take care of a handle. And I know, Charmaine, you were saying like, okay, yes, I put in some automations in place, and Michelle, as entrepreneurs, there's been many times that yes, and you telling the truth, I had to take a step back to take multiple step forwards and have went back to work, right? So from 2006 to now, I have went back to work a few times to be able to readjust, but even that kind of really wasn't really an option based upon a lot of other things. And so with that being said, can you think, Charmaine, anything about your business that you are doing now? I mean, outside of the basic like technology or something like that, because that was a move that we all have to or was going in. But can you think of anything that is part of your practice that could address that moving forward, or you will offer to other entrepreneurs?
Honestly, I think the biggest thing is diversifying, having multiple streams of income, and being intentional about what it is you do get involved in. I mean, think about Michelle. Michelle probably out of the three of us had to pivot the most because her business was so very much high touch, events, facilities focused, that kind of type of business. Whereas I already had kind of a diversity of services within my consulting practice where I did strategy, strategic planning, whether it was inclusion, equity, and diversity or not. So I had those kinds of skills that I could leverage. But in addition to that, my husband and I started our spice business over a year ago, and we got so incredibly busy that we really didn't push it much. And that kind of goes back to having the right processes and structure in place and the right people to, to support your business. And then all of a sudden we started getting all these orders. Because what people are at home now, they're cooking more. There's a product that we sell that is very ethnic based, and we sell more geisha sticks than I even know what to do with them. Okay. And so that business started to really pick up. And then what it allowed me to do was to start thinking about or putting into place some other passion projects that I've wanted to do for a very long time. And that started off with podcasting. Unfortunately, I was launching the week that the world blew up over the George Floyd thing, so I kind of had to back off of that. But what I would say is it's really important to either diversify your scope of services within your business or to diversify and look at multiple streams of income across the board, because you really have to be careful about putting your eggs in one basket. And I think this of all the COVID experience really underscored and over highlighted the need to do that more. So that's kind of the perspective that I come from.
Thank you for sharing that, because that is very important to, and I think when you think about what your business is, you got to think about what type of business you have, as well as how you can maybe provide other product streams still within your overarching product, and not be the one that's over here and over here and over here, where they kind of don't go together as well. So, but you're right, Michelle, Charmaine, Michelle, you did have to do the biggest pivot, having a touch and feel. So again, kind of like hindsight, what are some of the things that, if any, because I'm still trying to figure out for myself, I haven't figured it out, like, really, what could I have do differently even in the future? But is there anything that you want to share, that offers that insight, to entrepreneurs, and what you've learned through this as well?
So I would definitely say that it's timing. So yes, I did have to make a 360-degree, change or pivot from a service-based business to a product-based business to a actually making the product with my own hands too. So I think timing of that was really good. And everything just lined up. The universe kind of just all brought it to me in a place of where, it was kind of like destitute. There was a desert, and then there was that oasis of something that I had done several months prior, and literally I had ideas about the fabric, but nothing concrete. And it just spoke to me, and it had been sitting there for weeks. Oh, wow. This didn't happen on like March 17th that I got, I should make masks. We have been into stay-at-home orders for several weeks before it dawned on me, like, you have that fabric sitting in there. And wouldn't it be cool if you could make these masks out of it? So I think that one of the things that I learned about when doing the process, though, that there is a joy and a happiness. I enjoy doing the event planning. I do. There is a different level of joy and happiness that comes with me sitting at that sewing machine And I can be sewing for, in the first weekend that I ventured out, I sewed from 8 a.m. in the morning until 3 o'clock in the morning and did not stop for food or anything. It was probably around 9 o'clock when I was on a call with a Zoom meetup that I realized I had not eaten. And it just so distracted me and so just took my mind away. And it was so peaceful. And they say that, sewers say that it does something to you where you can just, kind of zone out. And there are many days that I can say that. There's nothing about an event that I can tell you that if I was up, and I have been up from 8 a.m. till 3 o'clock in the morning, that I would be feeling joy and zen. I would be upset, tired, cranky, and wanting to get it done, but I would not have a zen-like thing, aura going over me.
Yeah.
I have never been irritated by an order coming in. I've never someone reach out to me about, something, and I go, you get that client email in past times, you're like, oh, do I don't really want to talk. I don't really want to respond, but you do. And you dress it up. I have not had to do that. Every time I have the app on my phone for the orders now, since I moved to the online store. And every time it dings, there's been people who've been around me and on occasion, and it's like, I get so giddy. I have the volume off now, so there could be an order coming. But if it were on and you would see my eyes like, oh my gosh, I'll be laying in the bed, sleeping 3 o'clock in the morning, and I hear that ding. I'm like, making money while you sleep.
Michelle, and does it sound like a cha-ching? Is the volume, it's
like a little, it's not like Cash App cha-ching, but it's like a chime thing.
Yeah.
It's no other sound on my phone.
Yes, we love that sound.
And I'm like, I love it. I'm like, that's a mask order. And it doesn't matter what I'm doing. I like immediately pivot and I'll go and I'll sit down and I'll start pulling it together.
Yes.
And I'm happy. I'm happy going to the post office every other day. I love it. So I'm doing what makes me actually happy.
Good.
And I know it's helping. Someone told me that component that it's helping others adds to that. So that, writing all my handwritten notes, my hand starts getting cramped. I don't complain. I just set it down, go do something else real quick, and come back to writing all my notes that I include in the packages.
And so, Michelle, you know that I already have envisioned for you what this business is actually going to flourish into. So, Mask Today. Bomb clothing.
Yeah, Mask Today. It's something else. I've been thinking about. I won't be doing clothing, Charmaine, but I will be putting the fabrics to use.
You have the most amazing style. So I'm just saying, there's always those ghost sewers and things like that. You just need to wear the stuff and put your name on it.
Absolutely.
Okay.
It's true.
Okay.
See?
It's true. Thank you, Belva.
Yes. And that is so true. And a couple of people have said, thank you for, sharing your testimonies and all of that. And so typically what I like to do halfway through is have an opportunity for everyone to provide their contact information so that if people who are listening or come back and review, they have an ability and an opportunity to reach you. So with that being said, Charmaine, can you provide us your contact information? And also your social as well.
Okay. So let's start with social media. It's Charmaine Brown on Facebook, on LinkedIn, Charmaine Brown. On Instagram, it's simply Charmaine B. And my website is connexconsultinginc.com. That's CONNEX consultinginc.com.
So do me one favor while Michelle goes in, if you could do your connections in the comments box down there so that people can visually see it, because if they have a little bit of dyslexia like myself, don't tell me what I might write down.
So all right. Me and technology don't work very well together,
okay.
But
That's
we'll
okay.
figure it out.
I couldn't find the comment thing, so Tiffany might have to walk us through it.
So
I tried to respond. I see the live comments.
On the private chat.
I see the comments and the live comments.
Do the private chat on the side, and I'll copy and paste it.
Okay.
Yep.
Got it.
All right. And so, Michelle,
So
how
you want
can
me to give
people,
my contact?
you put it out there, but I still want you to provide it. So how can people contact you, Michelle?
Sure. So if you're interested in the mask, that is at cottonblocks.com, cottonblocks.com. Anything related to events or the other business, it's felderandco.com. That's felderandco.com. My social Facebook is Cotton Blocks, and it's also Felder and Co. Instagram is Felder and Co., which is me personally, and Cotton Blocks is the Cotton Blocks. And I think that's it. You can email me at felderandco@gmail.com as well.
Okay. So so because I was multitasking, my apologies. Tell us one more time. So while we have you here, Michelle, do you have a couple fabric patterns that you can show on the screen right quick and tell me how they can order again?
Sure. Can Charmaine go first? Because I need to go grab them.
Okay. Well, that was specifically for you, but that's okay.
Yeah.
So while we,
I also did put my
Well, I have some fabric. So I have some fabrics here, and I don't want people to get excited because these are not available. So.
Oh wow,
but
that's beautiful.
they're not available yet.
And this,
You're right.
no, not available at all. They're not available any longer.
Oh, any longer.
This one I might. Yeah, they were. This was a first series. This one I may put back into rotation. But these are my personal ones, which I started out with, but I wasn't willing to give everyone my personal collection like that I had brought back myself. Yes. So I shared a decent amount of it, but when I got to the level that I still want to do some things with it, I cut it off. But I purchased. There's a whole stack of them. There's about 32 patterns that they can find. And you can go to cottonblocks.com.
Okay.
And you can order the face masker there. Each of them have a name of a Black American that has supported civil rights, all the way from the transatlantic slave trade all the way to modern day.
Okay.
And most of them are all deceased. So I will introduce 4 more people on Friday.
Okay. Wow. So we did have one conversation, and I'll still just let you answer this, Michelle.
Right.
Yes, I see the. Yes, so Lakisha, yes, in particular Delta. So yes, there are some fabrics they're actually named after members of the organizations of the sororities. So like Martin has black and gold, Althea Gibson is pink and green, Coretta Scott is pink and green. There are 3 patterns named after Delta, or 2 that are named after Deltas, but there are 3 patterns that are red and black that are very popular with the ladies of Delta, and the ladies of AKA have really, and there's some Sigma Gamma Rhos who have purchased them as well. So there is some blues and things out there. So I have been cognizant of the Black Greek organizations in my selections of patterns.
Awesome. And for everyone who is out there, of course, please, if you would be so kind to take a moment and go to my YouTube station, which is AskTiffanyH, and subscribe to the channel there. You'll be able to see this as well as other previous broadcastings that we have done. As well as some information sessions that I've provided in the very, very beginning about financing that before even COVID had really hit. You can always follow me on Instagram at ask_TiffanyH on Instagram. And of course, you're following here on Facebook at Tiffany L. Hollinger. My business page, I don't really engage with that one that much. So we're here. So thank you so very much. And again, I always ask that if you have questions, please type in your questions. I know sometimes it's hard to type in a long, lengthy question or anything like that, but it's hard for people to tap in as well. So if you have any questions about to any one of these ladies about their business, their practice, how they started, or the overall essence about entrepreneurship, please drop your questions in the comment sections, and they will come up, and I'll post them out here for the ladies to be able to answer as well. And so with that being said, I want to, Michelle, make sure that you were going to come to a particular point. Was that about the cotton block, or was there something else that you wanted to provide as well as it went towards you having to pivot for some of the services that you provide at the moment?
Sure, it was going to be related to the cotton blocks and how that came to be.
Okay. Now, is that
you
a
want
little?
Me to share that now?
Yeah, go ahead. Thank you.
Oh, okay. So cotton blocks is actually a concept that I came up with several years ago, and I have a lot of ideas, probably similar to Charmaine. I think about a lot of things and want to, oh, that would be a great business, or oh, that's a great idea. And so cotton blocks was something that I came up with out of a conversation with an individual that really steered me as to why the history and the knowing of Blacks in America is not as broad within ourselves or within the majority community. So I decided that I wanted to do, as we have never forget, the hashtag never forget goes hand in hand with the Holocaust. And so I came up with, thought about, we could have always remember to commemorate and to also keep in mind the Holocaust that occurred over the Atlantic Ocean in the transatlantic slave trade. And I wanted to focus on those that, although we received here in America the fewest amount of African enslaved individuals, I wanted to focus on that because that's where my where my ancestry and my lineage comes from. So cotton blocks is simply about, in the United States, most of the chattel slave work was done in the cotton fields. So that's the cotton that we picked and the blocks, the auction blocks that we were sold on. So that's how I came up with the name. And it's an evolving platform which seeks to educate and uplift the history, people, places, and events of the Black American experience. And I use the hashtag always remember and hashtag lest we forget. And I want to move into, it was supposed to be like a t-shirt line and apparel line, and where we put the name similarly to what I've done with the mask, to name people in history. And you would go to a catalog, like a Wikipedia of sorts, and learn about that history. And you would walk around and you would begin to share. And it's always remember these people, places, and events within Black history within the United States of America experience. So it kind of moved me, COVID moved me into this with the mask, and I didn't know how to put what platform to put it on. And it came to me, use cotton blocks, because I was going to use my event site platform to sell them off of. And I was like, this just looks tacky. People aren't going to.
That's amazing. I love it.
So I said cotton blocks. I purchased the URL probably 4 years ago. And so I said, well, let's just create the site. And so I created the site on a Thursday, and it debuted on Juneteenth with the mask.
Awesome.
So it's interesting that you say that. I did a podcast with Shayna Black, who's with Black Girls in the CLE.
Black Girl in the CLE.
Yes. And she has this saying that your previous self, thank your previous self. Like, because, sometimes as entrepreneurs, we have all of these ideas. Like, she had asked me, like, how did AskTiffanyH come about? And I was like, years ago when I was in DC, I came up with Ask Tiffany. And the ASK, of course, stood for something. I don't even really remember, but I kind of created this thing. And then I just put it in a shell, in a folder, And then when I came back home, I said, and I brought it back out. I hired a designer to create a logo and this whole everything. And I was like, yes, this is me. With, my infamous hot pink. And I was like, okay. And I was just like, and I put it back in the folder, and truthfully, it didn't really morph until COVID. And so she would say that your previous self, think of these great ideas that when your current self is ready for it, you already had all of that stuff. So just thank your previous self, for that. And I'm like, yeah, that right there. So just thank your previous self.
Yeah, that's great. Thank my previous self. My pastor had actually preached on a message last year in 2019 that talked about use what you have. And so that really came to, it resonated with me in how cotton blocks came to be, of using what I have. And technically outside of the sewing machine and the thread, what I had is what I used to bring that, to bring that forth.
Yeah.
Can I answer a question in the chat?
Yes.
It's not a dress, Yolanda. It's not a dress. I mean, it's not a top or a scarf, Yolanda. It's a dress. It's almost like a caftan. It's really long, but it just goes down.
Beautiful.
That's all.
Yes.
She wants this outfit that I'm wearing. I didn't make it.
Because see, Charmaine has already said that you have these things that you should be getting. See how it's all coming to fruition?
She just has the most amazing talent.
Somebody...
Okay,
Can you
be a stylist for me then? I mean, okay. I'm always
sure. That's under that. There's a business for that. Silent Bell. That is part of what we do on Silent Bell.
All right. Well,
lifestyle management and concierge.
Let's roll, Michelle. Let's roll. So Tiffany, to your point, I think so. I had to be. I think we also needed to be mindful that everybody was in different stages of whatever their journey or their experiences were during COVID. And there were some that they have done absolutely nothing but work to the bones. And this was a much needed break for them, right? Mm-hmm. And then there were people like me who had been so incredibly busy and not slowing down enough to really cultivate a lot of the ideas that I wanted to bring to life. And so I took advantage of that time to do that, right? And then there are people like Michelle who completely had to pivot, but in the process really found, that passion, something that when you talk about what you're building with Cotton Block, it reminds me of just who you are, right? And what you kind of embody. And so it's just really cool to kind of see and hear, the different motivations and the different ways that we're all kind of stepping into the next space and the next part of our journeys, right? Because it's a process, it's a journey, and it's yours to own, and it's yours to walk. It's nobody else's. And I'm really excited to hear the story and the process and the journey, Michelle. It's really, really awesome.
Yes. And when we think about this, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I just said, thank you, sister.
And so that's the interesting thing, and why I have really gotten excited about today, because I think that as entrepreneurs, one of the biggest things is that we learn this essence about how you just really have to just keep on moving. Like activity begets activity, movement begets movement. And you can't, if anybody knows me, I cannot stand the whole woe is me mentality and perspective. It's like, okay, yes, COVID is here, but what are we going to do? Okay, yes, it is a trauma, because these extra 20 pounds that has come on to me and I can't get rid of, and I don't even psychologically I done did reboots. I don't know how many times. Like I have had to learn to just, be kind to myself and just going to find me some cute fat girl clothes. And Michelle, you're going to have to get me some wraps to wrap all of this up. Because, it's for true. And it's like at the end of the day, I come home and, I have a client that I have here, and I have conference calls and I'm helping my clients. And like, I'm a lot more exasperated because I can't be refueled like I used to, because there's my socialization and my interaction is less today. And so I think you ladies bring a wonderful point. And thank you for sharing that with us about, and if you have any tips, here's the thing. So Charmaine and Michelle, what is, as an entrepreneur, because we know it can be challenging, we have those ups and downs. What is the tip that you have that you will offer to inspire or encourage an entrepreneur that really has hit since COVID, that is your tried and true?
Yeah. So I would say, and again, you know, Tiffany and I are cut from a very similar cloth, pun intended. Uh, um, in that, you know, we're super extroverts. You know, clearly we've got the bug for entrepreneurship. But one of the things that I've learned through this COVID experience is, and it's still a process and it's still a journey and still trying to figure it out. But the difference between knowing when to grind versus when to allow grace, right? Because as entrepreneurs, we're always on the grind. It is nonstop. Your time is your time. We don't clock in, we don't clock out. You know, like, you know, Michelle said, she, you know, works 8 o'clock to 8 a.m. to 3 a.m. in the morning. There's no, you know, there's no cadence in terms of when we worked on the inside. And sometimes we can work ourselves to the bone and not allow ourselves enough grace to slow down, to rejuvenate, to recharge. You know, the concept of slowing down in order to speed up. When you are constantly on your grind because you love what you do, sometimes you don't necessarily see the need or the importance of when to manage, and I'm not even going to say balance, but just manage the grind versus the grace. And COVID has taught me that, because prior to the past few weeks, I enjoyed having this kind of peace, even though I was still working and it was kind of, you know, ebb and flow, but I was enjoying the peace. And now I'm back on the grind. And, you know, fortunately or unfortunately, I'm being forced to, you know, slow down for the next few weeks. But that is the biggest challenge, and it can be the biggest blessing to be able to go back and forth to grind versus grace. And so you know, it's a journey. Keep at it, but it's really important to keep those in mind.
Yes, yes, yes. Thank you for sharing that, because that is and believe it or not, I will say that I have gotten more of my learning to be graceful to myself from you, because I'll be like, I think I called you one time. I was in tears, like I know people don't think, but I was just in tears, like.
Well, you know what? What you don't realize is that's me telling you to calm down so I don't get freaked out. Okay, it's really all about me. It's not really about you. It's about protecting my inner peace.
My girlfriend, this isn't for you. This is for me. So record it. So when I'm having my moment, play it back to me. This isn't for you.
Yeah.
So thank you. So Michelle, to you, during this moment, what would encouraging words or thoughts or things that you've learned because of this that you would love to offer and share to inspire other entrepreneurs?
I would think so. I would say ditto to all that Charmaine shared. And I would add to that, for me, I know I kind of process life in a proactive way. And I believe that what you build up in you is what's going to come out, either in time of like pressure or in time of when you need it. And so depositing things in you that you may not see the need for at the time, it'll come a time when you will need them, whether it's something that you learned, a skill, education. Most of my prayers are not immediate for an immediate need. Most of my prayers are for something that I have no idea why I'm necessarily praying on this, but it's something that's future. And then, a few years later, I'll be like, oh, you talked about that in your prayer time, or, oh, that for me, my faith is, I put that as my superpower on our trustee, the Black Women Work trustee. I believe it is, because I truly believe that it's my faith and my religious practice that I think that really sustains me and keeps me grounded, keeps me level headed, and also keeps me in a place where I'm not in a fretful space. And my personality also helps drive me in that way, where I'm a a fixer or problem solver. Hence, I do events. Those are just one problem after another that you're solving and putting the puzzle together. And so those pulling on resources that I have, people that I have, the network that I have, and then that own just personal going inside of me and figuring it out and listening. I don't always listen. I do know that in this time of COVID and the unrest in the country, the needed unrest in the country, I feel like I have listened to myself, that gut, that way more than I ever have in the past. And I have stated, well, just let the universe do what it does on a number of occasions. Just faith and being sure that you are not, I'm not sure of the audience, but if there are any, I have a passion around Black women entrepreneurs. So just know that, they tried to bury us and they did not know that we were seeds. So you will survive and you will flourish and you will make it to the other side of this.
That's right. Thank you so much for sharing that with us.
Truth.
Yes, it is.
Yes. And thank you for sharing that, because I would have to say that today is a reflection of all of that. Again, I've known Charmaine since high school. We went our separate ways, and did different various things in life. I came back and I think it was even more so connecting more after she moved to Detroit or Michigan, more so than even when she was here. And even I returned and Michelle, I can't even remember how our paths crossed, but it has crossed and we stay in touch and stay engaged. And, even the manifestation of today is a byproduct of, women looking out for each other, or people just looking out for each other and understanding what that shared space and that commonality is about, because even for myself, my pivot wasn't like yours, Michelle, a full court pivot or anything like that, or a 360. I really had to just I actually had to put back on my financial advisor hat and give information and finances. I was doing mostly real estate and doing these information sessions. I didn't start off like, oh, I'm going to do this. It was just like one led to another. And I said, hey, let's talk about credit and talk about, the impact of buying your home and what's the resources out here. And then this and, then politics. And then, and then it was like, well, let's talk about the state of women being business owners, because there's so much going on, And so today is a testament, of all of that. And so I thank you ladies both for taking the time to share this moment in time and history and experience with me, and sharing your experience with everyone else out here and your stories. And we will continue to promote and engage one another. And as we leave off, do you have any last inspiring words you would like to leave us with, Charmaine?
So I guess maybe I'll just share my most famous quote that I live and breathe by. Comfort is a beautiful place, but nothing ever grows there.
Amen. Thank you. And Michelle?
I'm just going to say that, to the two of you and to any other Black woman or girl who's watching this, that Black girls rock. We have Black girl magic and we can do this. Yeah. And so keep on keeping on.
Yes. And I'm going to leave everyone with a saying that someone said to me so many years ago, and it's just the epitome of everything that I do and believe, is that the universe has a way of making a way for those who know where they want to go. So if you take one step, the universe will meet you where you at and take you to where you want to go. So with that, thank you, everyone. I appreciate it. Remember to follow us, replay this, share it, and all of that good stuff. I appreciate your time and have a wonderful rest of the day. Take care.
Yes.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.